Hello everyone, welcome to English World. Today in this video I am going to tell you one best love story, Romeo and Juliet, written by William Shakespeare in 16th century. First, I am going to introduce you all the characters of this story. So don't miss the end and never forget to hit the like button. Romeo and Juliet. Romeo, the son of Montague's family, the bitter enemy of Capulet's family, and Juliet, the daughter of Capulet. Capulet, Lady Capulet, Montague, and Lady Montague, the lady nurse who breastfed Juliet since their childhood and taken care a lot. You can say the servant of Capulet's family. Tybalt, the cousin of Juliet, and Volio, the cousin of Romeo, and relatives of Montague's family. Friar Lawrence, the Franciscan church, and very close friend of Romeo and Juliet. Friar John, a monk, a friend of Friar Lawrence, who went to meet Romeo in exile but never reached there. With the false with the news of false death of Juliet. And I told you next one, Prince Escalus, the king, the head of Verona city, who is responsible for all the peace and silence in Verona at any cost. Paris, the relatives of Prince Escalus. Marcuso is also the relatives of Prince Escalus and very close friend of Romeo, who always supports Romeo, who saved Romeo many times and killed by Tybalt while saving Romeo in one battle. And Rosalind. There is no scene of Rosalind in this story, but his name is said by Friar Lawrence. Most attractive Rosalind Capulets. She is the only girl Romeo fell in love with first time, Rosalind. The first love of Romeo, Rosalind. And here your story starts right now. The first scene of this story is the gang of Romeo friends attacked on Capulet's family. They were going somewhere in the woods. And in that attack, Romeo first time saw Juliet, most beautiful, most attractive 13 years girl. And there they also saw Lady Nurse with Juliet, who often takes care of Juliet. And in that battle, Romeo killed one member of Capulet's family, so they were disappointed by this battle. They wanted to take revenge by killing Romeo. So the next day, Princess Callas called both the family for solution of this problem, the permanent solution. They scolded both of them and won. So no blood, no sword. And after that, they also announced the engagement of Paris and Ursula, the elder daughter of Capulet's family. After this engagement, the Capulets was going to become more powerful than Montague's family, so they can take revenge from Montagues after this engagement. So in that engagement, the Marcuso, the close friend of Romeo, called Romeo and they explained all the scene behind this meeting. They said Capulets wanted to engage her Ursula, the elder daughter, with Paris, and they wanted to become more powerful after this story. So this is the scene. Anyway, Romeo went in that engagement party and first time danced with Juliet. And after that dance, Juliet directed him a secret room where she used to spend her childhood. There she lighted some candles and talked with Romeo. Romeo followed her and they kissed each other. Romeo fell deeply in love with Juliet there after that. And they returned to engagement party. In that engagement party, one miracle took place. The Capulets announced the engagement of Ursula and Paris. And in that engagement party, Paris first time saw Juliet, and Paris too wanted to marry to Juliet because Juliet was most beautiful, and he was not aware of the younger daughter, most beautiful 13-year girls Juliet. They changed their mind and said in last, I want to marry to Juliet, not Ursula. And here the problem started now with Capulets. They said, no, first time I announced your engagement with Ursula. This is not going to work. Romeo did not wanted to leave that engagement party. Anyhow, they did that and they fell deeply in love with Juliet. They met many times with Juliet in balcony and they kissed each other. They did a lot. They fell too much deeply in love with Juliet. And then first time Romeo said to Friar Lawrence about their love story that I made a most beautiful girl. Friar Lawrence did not listen to Romeo. He said, you usually say like that. The first time you said, I've I've seen a most beautiful girl, Rosalind. Rosalind girl, there is no scene of Rosalind in this story, and this name is said by Friar Lawrence. So there we know about Rosalind, the first love of Romeo. And Romeo said, no, this time, this is real, most beautiful girl. I want to marry with her. So this is not going to work because she belongs to Capulet's family, the better enemy and bitter enemy of Montague's family. So they wanted a solution of this relationship. Friar Lawrence said, forget her, this is not possible. You know, Capulets is the bitter enemy of your father, so your father would never accept her and their family. So after this engagement party changed everything. Capulets was very sad with the new order of Paris. Paris wants to marry Juliet, not Ursula. And here, Capulets wanted to become more powerful after this engagement, but nothing works. And Ursula was too happy because in that engagement, Paris first time saw Juliet. He wanted to marry Juliet, not Ursula. And here Juliet, who wants to marry Romeo, not Paris. So this is a scene like that. And between that, Capulets came to know about a rumor by someone about the affair of her younger daughter Juliet with Montague's family Romeo. They called Juliet and said, whose name should not be mentioned in my home, and warned her, scolded her, and said, don't make this mistake, otherwise I will not be your father. But Juliet was very afraid and worried. He soon wants to meet with Romeo, but with the help of Lady Nurse, he met with Romeo and explained all these things that do something. My father wants to engage me with Paris. Paris wants to marry me, not Ursula. And in that meeting, Romeo said, we are going to marry secretly. And he said, the exact date, exact place, and exact timing. In that church, with the help of Friar Lawrence, they married secretly in church. They became bride and groom secretly. She was very happy with this marriage, and Lady Nurse too. But nobody was aware of this marriage of Juliet with Romeo. They kissed each other after this marriage. They enjoyed a lot. But the situation is going to change completely. Even then, nobody is aware of this marriage of Juliet with Romeo. Not even, no one, only Friar Lawrence. Friar Lawrence did that to bring peace and silence in both the families, but nothing works according to Friar Lawrence. Again, she met with Romeo. After her father said about the proposal of Paris with Juliet, here Capulet said to Juliet, Paris wants to marry you, not Ursula, so be ready. Anyhow, I want to become powerful in this Verona city and want to take revenge from Montague's family. But after listening all these things, Juliet was very afraid, and again he met with Romeo and said, we should tell everything about our relationship, about our marriage. But Romeo promised her and said, now in coming Christmas festival, everyone will be there with the Prince Scalus and everyone, both the family will be there, and we will announce our relationship. We will tell everything about our relationship with all. Yeah, according to the plan, the Christmas came, everyone was there, even Prince Scalus. But here, Tybalt, the cousin of Juliet, came to know about the affair of Juliet with Romeo. He wanted to kill Romeo at any cost. In that crowd, Tybalt with some friend attacked on Romeo and pulled back from that crowd. Romeo did not. Romeo was not aware of all this. He does not wanted to fight with Tybalt after he fell in love with Juliet. But Tybalt punched him and slapped him, did many things, pushed him down on the ground. But anyhow, in that crowd, everyone was praying in that Christmas. But in Christmas festival, no one fights, no one sheds bloods of anyone but Tybalt. But Marquiso saw Romeo. Someone was pulling him back and followed him. They wanted to save Romeo at any cost, but Romeo did not wanted to fight with Tybalt. But here, Marquiso pulled back his sword and started fighting with Tybalt in that battle, in that war. Tybalt killed Marquiso anyhow. That was a sad moment. Everyone came out from the church to see this incident, an accident, and again, Prince Scalus was too unhappy with this event, and they all said, this is not a goat. Who killed Marquiso? I'm not going to tolerate him. But Tybalt was not there. The Benvolio who saw and explained everything here. Like Romeo does not wanted to fight with Tybalt, and Marquiso who wanted to save Romeo and fighted with Tybalt to save Romeo, and Tybalt killed Marquiso. They explained everything to Prince Scalus. Next day, when Romeo returned back to home, their family Montagues, Lady Montagues was unhappy. and said, and they checked his sword and said, there is no blood. What happened to you? You've changed. What happened? Marquiso was your best friend and you don't want to take revenge. What's changed? What happened to you? After listening to this, there, Juliet was too unhappy and she was aware of that Marquiso death. Marquiso was very close friend of Romeo. She was aware of that. And according to the plan, Romeo was afraid and he wanted to take revenge of his best friend Marcuso by killing Tybalt. He went to kill Tybalt. Juliet tried to stop all these things, but she failed in stopping. And here, Romeo invited Tybalt in a war. They fought it, and Tybalt is killed in that war by Romeo. There, their first time, Juliet was unhappy with Romeo, whom I married. All men are same. They want something they don't love. But after soon, she realized that Tybalt wanted to kill Romeo. So it's good because there is a cure. Everything is fair in love. After everything changed, next day when Romeo killed Tybalt, the Princess Callas called a meeting and blamed Romeo for killing Tybalt because this is a story like that. Princess Callas, who was going to be a relatives of Capulets, and they scolded Montague's family. They punished. They punished Romeo. They said, I do not want to see Romeo in Verona at any cost. Otherwise, Romeo will be hanged to death. After this, everything changed. Romeo's life was destroyed by his family, by the decision of his family, Montagues and Lady Montagues. Romeo was hidden in a church with Friar Lawrence, and Friar Lawrence was too afraid with this all, with the new order of Princess Callas. And Friar Lawrence too do not wanted to help Romeo anyhow and said, Romeo, you have to leave now. With the new order of Princess Callas, you should leave Verona. Romeo started crying and said, what was the new order? Here, I do not want to see Romeo in this Verona for his entire life. He should spend his entire life in exile. They destroyed everything by killing Tybalt. What about love? What about Juliet? Everything they have to live. And they have to go in exile. They have to live alone. They have to leave home, family, everything, friends after this incident. But Romeo first time cried a lot. They shouted on her mother, on Montague's family for all this. They said, after this incident, Romeo was crying by thinking that my parents spoiled my life and their Juliet too. When she came to know about the new order of Princess Callas, that Romeo should not be seen in Verona, and Romeo will have to spend his entire life in exile. She was very worried by thinking that, and there, Paris, who tells Capulets about the affairs of Juliet and Romeo, and Capulets was very afraid that, and they punished Juliet too and warned Lady Null that She should not leave this room, and Capulets locked Juliet inside a room. That night, Romeo met Juliet through balcony and slept with Juliet and talked a lot. After that, there Romeo. When Romeo was going to exile, between that way Benvolio, he met with Benvolio and explained everything to Benvolio about his love. He said everything to Benvolio about his love, Juliet. And before going to exile, he said, "You should try to tell to my parents about Juliet. I love Juliet. I am married to Juliet," and went to exile. But Benvolio dared not to talk to his parents, Montagues. But after that, Romeo went to exile, and there the new engagement party started. And the Capulet said to Juliet, "You have to marry to Paris." And Lady Nurse too said, "No, Romeo is in exile for rest of his life, and you are young, so you should marry Paris." Juliet wanted a new solution of this problem. He decided to meet with Friar Lawrence and explained everything to Friar Lawrence. "I already have married with Romeo. I can't marry again with Paris. You knew everything about it." Juliet said to Friar Lawrence. They cried and did a lot and said, "Please, please," and excuse to Friar Lawrence. In last, Friar Lawrence given her a poison, a bottle of poison, and said, "Before 1 hour of marriage, of engagement, just use it. Use this poison, and you will be dead for 48 hours. You will be in a deep sleep for 40 hours, not dead. You will be like a dead. And then after that, they all will bring you here, and I will send a letter to Romeo, and they will take you to exile." And that was a plan. But for a few minutes, Juliet was happy with this plan and said, "Yes, I am going to do that." They taken the poison bottle, and according to the plan, before 1 hour of engagement, she used the poison and slept for 48 hours. And their Friar Lawrence sent a letter about the false death of Juliet by Friar John to Romeo. When she was sleeping for 48 hours, nobody was aware of this plan, not even Lady Nurse. Everyone was crying about the death of Juliet. The rumor of real death of Juliet was spread to Verona, and somehow Benvolio, who was only Montague's family and knew about the marriage, the secret marriage of Romeo and Juliet, and wanted to help Romeo and Juliet. Somehow he came to know about Juliet's death, true, real death. Soon he went to meet Romeo and wanted to explain all these things. But here they went to meet Romeo before Friar John. Friar John never is there, and Benvolio said everything to Romeo that Juliet is dead. And there Romeo went to meet Juliet to church, but not about false death. He understood that in reality that Juliet is dead, and there he reached to church, and after a few minutes he used a poison, very dangerous poison that he had taken from Marcuso. Okay, and he used it, he licked it and slapped very close to Juliet, and he doesn't want it to live without Juliet, but he was not aware of the false death. But when Volio was returning back from the same road, he saw Friar John, and then he came to know about the false death of the plan, and then he followed Romeo, but everything was changed. Romeo was dead by a powerful poison. And when, after 48 hours, Juliet came in sense, they saw that Romeo is dead, and they taken out the sword, and they also suicided, and they all both died. Both suicided due to that situation. So this is the last scene and very disappointing scene. Both suicided. They do not wanted to live without each other. And I think that was a real love of Romeo and Juliet. I like that too much. The death of Romeo and Juliet changed everything in Verona. The Capulets and Montagues hugged each other and decided not to shed any blood in Verona. They brought peace and silence in Verona. So I like that story, and this is your end of this story. Hit the like button and also share this story to your friends. Bye bye.